Hello, I'm Chef Jim from Unidine, and we're here to do our culinary explorations little video for the Aja show. And I am joined with Amy Bendakovitz, and between the two of us, we'll be kind of going back and forth and explaining our programs. Amy?
Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Bendakovitz. I am an Operations Excellence Manager with Unidine. I've been with Unidine for about 2 years now, and in my role, I am responsible for account transitions when we get new business. And then when we're not busy doing that, I work with Chef Jim in the field to make sure that our teams are supported, and I specifically service the East region. How about you, Jim? What do you do?
I am the corporate executive chef for the Northeast and upstate New York region. So I support about 104 properties with 9 district chefs that help me do all the transition in the field.
Great. So for today's presentation, we're going to start first by talking a little bit about the dining experience, and then we're going to go into a bit of a cooking demonstration with Chef Jim there. Right now, he's located in our corporate headquarters location up in probably very cold Boston, Massachusetts. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is wellness and how important wellness is within our facilities. So both Chef Jim and I, we work in a lot of senior living and healthcare environments. And obviously in today's pandemic world, wellness has become even more important. Wouldn't you agree, Chef Jim?
Yes, definitely.
So a lot of our menus are really driven surrounding the nutritional value. We work with our dietitians, most of them being on site, to develop really enticing menus that are not only healthy in ingredients, seasonal, but then full of variety that really encourages them to eat. Chef Jim, can you tell us a little bit about the menu development process?
Again, we as corporate chefs kind of dream the dream, and then we field test everything before it goes out to the field, and we bounce it off each other. There's 7 of us in the culinary executive team, and we share best practices, and again, we go from coast to coast, so we also make sure that we take into account the geography and what's seasonal in each one of the regions.
Yeah, and each menu is customizable, and that's so important because you want to make sure that your residents and the clients that you're feeding are excited about what they're eating, and that's so important with that seasonality and varying up that menu. Great. So, of course, in the COVID pandemic world that we live in, our service model is changing, ever changing, and ever evolving. So obviously, in the last couple months, a lot of people have changed the way they dine out. And in our facilities, we've really been innovative on how do we still provide a quality product in a pandemic world that we live in, ensuring that our residents and our staff are safe. Some of that we do through our remote touch points, especially when it relates to some of our cafe environments. Chef Jim, what have you seen in terms of some of those remote checkpoints in our facilities?
Again, there's a trained culinarian in every one of our properties, along with a seamless partnership with health and wellness. So between the registered dietitians and the executive chefs that are on property, and then the support with the corporate executive chef, there's a lot of support and a lot of culinary education available.
Exactly. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention some of our programming that we've developed. One of our programs called Ready Fresh is a simple and cost-effective mobile application that's really key in delivering that touchless service, still providing that great service, but doing it in a way that some of our customers are safe. And then also our curbside programming, which is a lot like what the restaurants are doing today. It's making sure that we're offering that high-end takeout program that's really key in ensuring our safety, their safety, and still a quality product. Chef Jim, if nothing else, COVID has really told us that we need to be resilient, we need to be persistent, and we need to be really innovative. And that has really changed the way we provide food service in all of our accounts. All of our team members, need to be now COVID trained and know how to handle service from an infection control standpoint. What do you think, Unidine is really unique in doing in that?
Well, I think we're unique in we don't let COVID be a excuse to not be able to provide our service. What we've done is we're able to morph into a safe, socially distant, and again, using best sanitation practices to make sure that we can still provide optimal service for our customers.
And now more than ever, especially with COVID-19, residents in long-term care facilities, senior living, they don't always have that one-on-one touch anymore, especially with their family members. They're really only interacting with the staff that's on site, some of them unfortunately not seeing their families quite as frequently. So that care is so much more valuable today from our team members. And at Unidine, we do that by implementing some really good training programs that focus on customer service, even in a COVID world. All of our staff members are caring people, and we love to be able to see them be caring toward our residents, and that really creates the dining experience. Can you give us a couple examples of that, Chef Jim?
Well, one of the things that we're famous for in Unidine is our culinary theater. So that's the ability to do demonstration cooking, live demos when before the pandemic. But now we do said live demos, we do them virtually. So we're able to video them. And in some properties, we have closed circuit television where we can, the residents can watch in the comfort and safety of their own home. The chef can demonstrate a new dish on the menu or just something that's on the latest trend.
Yeah, exactly. And I've even seen in some of our communities a very mobile concept in terms of carts going around the hallways of a facility. They may bring happy hour to you. They may bring milkshakes to you. Our teams have really become innovative in how they can deliver the service that we're providing into the rooms and into the homes of our residents. So I think that's really exciting too. Flexibility is so important, especially in a pandemic, but also in general business practices. It's important that we're always one step ahead of what's happening and making sure that our service levels are still consistent. Especially in an ever-changing COVID world, all of our businesses need to be flexible, and especially in dining excellence. It's important that we work through different programming to still create the variety that our residents are looking for. One way we do that is through our Order In program. It's a high-end takeout program that allows residents to choose what they want every day with consistent quality menus. They do so by calling in and working with our dining team to place their order, and then their orders are delivered directly to their room. Do you have any examples, Jim, of how we've been flexible in our current business environment?
Well, again, with the pandemic, we had to try to think outside the box, and it's actually kind of a play on words because we had to learn how to take our fresh food from scratch recipes and get them delivered instead of in a dining setting. We went room to room and door to door. Like you said, we have folks that use specialized carts and can do some assembly outside the room, but most of it, again, was coming up with new packaging ideas and the ability to, again, display the food without it looking like it was done to go. Even in the recipe that I'm going to display today, kind of in a virtual culinary exploration, we have to do some deep thinking and make sure that we're hitting all the correct components as far as nutritional values and also religious values. We have to make sure, again, in the kosher world, that we're not commingling any meat or dairy, or not using any ingredients that aren't either kosher or parv. So today we're going to be doing what we call a power bowl, which is one of our promotions. And the idea was to try to get something that would be not only visually appealing, because again, folks eat with their eyes first. We want to make sure something looks really, really nice the way it's displayed, but then also we want to use, layers of flavor, try to do it with reduced sodium, so we're using fresh herbs instead. And again, different levels of flavor. We're mixing different consistencies as well. We added a crispy component, and again, I'll be making a salad dressing from scratch, almost the traditional Caesar dressing, but with some superfoods that we're going to add in. So again, some of the superfoods, I'm going to add kale, and kale is one of our green leafy vegetables, but it helps fight cardiovascular disease. It's great for combating asthma and rheumatoid arthritis. I'll be using chickpeas or garbanzos. They're great. They're very high in fiber, which helps with our digestion. It slows the digestion, so folks with diabetes, don't have that absorption of the carbs and the sugars. The dressing, I'm going to use what's called Aquafaba, and it's the liquid that was on the chickpeas. And again, Aquafaba is great. It helps people metabolize protein and also aids in digestion. As far as spices go, I'm using turmeric. Again, it's anti-inflammatory. It really, these ingredients, it's kind of a stealth health. The residents don't even realize they're eating healthy. So we try not to tag things as healthy. We like to use, the heading of better for you. We see that people are much more receptive.
Another program I always like to talk about is the Naturally Nourished program, which really focuses on taking those plant-based foods and really making them the center of the plate. We really work to integrate them into our menus and really drive that plant-forward thought and health.
So today's culinary exploration, or today's dish, I could easily substitute the salmon that I'm going to use. I'm going to do a piece of blackened salmon, but again, we could use, we have a product that we partner with called Oomph, which takes on the flavors. It's a soybean derivative, takes on the flavors of the sauces and the items that it's cooked with. So again, I've done that, or even using things like the Beyond Chicken or Beyond Beef, Beyond Sausage. So that company has done a great job with simulating the meat product with a plant-based alternative.
Yeah, those Beyond products are really impressive. I mean, they really take the form of what they're imitating, and most of the time you can't even tell that it's not protein, which is really cool.
And speaking of the programming, the recipe that I'm going to demo today actually fits many of our branded programs. So you had mentioned Oh So Good, which is our Better For You program. This also uses, again, all the brain and the mind cognitive components, so it fits into our Memory Fair, which again is our branded program for seniors with either dementia or vascular disease. So at the end of the day, this recipe not only will be delicious, but is appropriate for, we're also going to do it into a fresh bite, which is our handheld for folks that need to be able to eat with their fingers. So.
Yeah, Chef Jim, that sounds really great. Can you tell us a little bit about your blackened salmon and how you prepare that?
Yep, I'm going to do the demo here live in our kitchen.
Today, Chef Jim and I are here, and we're so excited to discuss a little bit further about what it means to program outside of that Treif box. And what that means is we have a resident in our facilities who may be kosher and some may be non-kosher. And we want to make sure that we're building our programming and menus to span across that entire spectrum of likes and dislikes, as well as preferences.
And in conjunction with that, we want to make sure that we hit all of their dietary restrictions, as well as making sure that we follow the religious connotations as well, and not commingling meat and dairy, and not using anything from the pork animal, etc. one of the great examples is it's a traditional steakhouse recipe that you take a filet mignon and you wrap it in a piece of bacon. So again, what we would do is we would substitute that with a turkey bacon and still be able to get the same visuals, the same plating expertise as if it was the same steakhouse. The only difference is that it fits, again, the religious needs for that dish. So welcome, this is our culinary explorations. This is a concept that this can either be done live in front of our residents or can be done virtually. It can be done via closed circuit TV or even videoed and shared. Again, it's a great opportunity to show latest trends, show some of our branded concepts, and really, if you think of it, all of our residents that are have been sequestered to their rooms for the past year really need something, you know, besides watching TV. So how cool is it for them to be able to see their chef executing recipes that we can share with the residents, and even do almost like the Blue Apron concept. We can supply the ingredients and actually the chef can walk them through it. It's really a fun, innovative concept that Unidine's really trying to champion. So.
Yeah, and with that culinary explorations class, it's a great opportunity not only for that engagement piece, but to further the residents' understanding of what they're actually eating. And this is their opportunity, especially if it is an in-person session, to really ask the questions about the foods they're eating and understand how certain foods can benefit their overall health.
So first thing I did was, you can see here, I've got a nice charred pepper. And what I did was I did it right over the open flame of my burner. And then I throw it into a plastic bag where the steam will help so that I can separate, I can take the char off that pepper, it'll take the skin off, and then I'll be able to seed it. And then one of our components of this power bowl is that julienne of roasted red pepper. So I'd spoken to the layers of flavor. This is going to give us a little smoky component. So I'm going to let that pepper steam. I'm going to move over to my burner here, and I'm going to quickly kind of crisp those garbanzo beans. And again, I'm going to do it here on top of the stove. Sometimes at home, what you could have done is just mix the components together on a sheet pan and toss them in a toaster oven and get them crispy. And the idea of the crispy garbanzos is not only to use a superfood, but also I want to make this gluten-free. Many of our residents have difficulties with gluten or wheat products. So instead of a traditional bread crouton, I'm going to make a little crispy garbanzo crouton. So in doing so, I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil to my hot saute pan. Again, another one of our superfoods with the extra virgin olive oil. It's one of our healthier fats. Bring it up close to the smoke point, and then just take some of my garbanzo. Hopefully not set off the fire alarm here in Boston. And again, these are, the flavor we're going to add there is a little bit of curry. So I'm going to throw my curry in, and we want to give some great color. So I'm going to throw some paprika in there with them as well. And then minimal salt and a touch of pepper. So.
Yeah, and while you're seasoning there, Chef Jim, I sure love talking about garbanzo beans and how important they are. They're a really filling type of bean, and it's really good for the digestive system. There's a high amount of fiber in those, so they really are a good food for you.
And they're economical, so they're very low priced. And at the end of the day, it's a great source of fiber. And as our residents age, we're looking for ways to get fiber into their system. So we're almost where I want them. I want to get them crispy because, again, they're taking the place of a crouton. So while I'm waiting for those to crisp, I'm going to multitask, and I'm going to take my pepper out of the bag, and I'll move it here so you can see it. And I'll show you how easy that little bit of charred skin just comes right off. So I know in my house, we would never buy commercial jarred red peppers because it's just so easy to throw them on a gas burner and, excuse me, peel them, and then to seed them, all I'm going to do is reach in and grab the top of the pepper and take it and just pop out my seeds that way. And then again, you know, don't be afraid to have a little bit of that charred skin in there, because again, that char is adding some flavor. So what I'll do is I just stepped off camera. I'm back, got another saute pan, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to toast some of my spices that we're going to use to blacken that salmon. So in Indian cuisine, this is one of the things they're famous for. They get those high levels of flavor when they make their fresh curries and so forth. I'm going to go ahead and in a dry pan, I'm going to add some coriander seed, which is the seed from the cilantro plant, and some cumin seed. And what we're going to do is we're going to grind this here in the kitchen. And again, where it's blackened, we're going to want a little bit of heat. So I'm going to add a tad of cayenne pepper. And again, you can adjust the seasonings to your own personal liking. I tend to like a little bit of heat, so I'm going to add some red chili. And again, this will get a little bit of paprika as well. And you can see the little bit of smoke that just came off my dry pan. It's all tons and tons of flavor here. All right, I'm just going to let those toasted spices rest a little bit. So again, I've got my my roasted red bell pepper. I tend to bounce around as a chef, and we're just going to give these a quick julienne. Julienne is just a thin matchstick cut. So again, the other thing is this is going to add some great color to that salad. I'm just going to reserve that at the top of my board. So, perfect. I'm going to bounce around again. And, excuse me. I'm going to bring my salmon fillet in on another cutting board. Here you see I've got it on a blue cutting board. It's color coded for fish. And all I'm going to do is I make a little incision at the bottom of the tail. And then I'm just going to pull the skin and agitate my knife back and forth. What I'll do is I'll remove the skin because we want this to be a boneless, skinless salmon. You can see nice and clean, and we'll save said skin. That will go into our stock. We would normally break down the whole fish, so we would have the rack of bones and also the head would make a fantastic fish stock. So what I'll do here with the salmon is I'm going to trim a little bit of the belly portion off, and I'll save that as well. This will be used in a salmon cake or could be used in a salmon burger. And then we're going to cut our portions about 3½ ounces, and I'm cutting them a severe bias. It gives me good plate coverage. This is a pound of salmon. Here I've got 4 ounce portions, 3½ to 4 ounces, and I'll be blackening those in a moment. So, and again, I've got my green board, which is for produce only. And then in a little while, you'll see me after I've had my cooked food or ready to eat foods, it'll be on my white board. So the next staging I'm going to do is I'm going to heat my cast iron pan. You're going to want that nice and hot. And what I did to season this was I put a little bit of olive oil in there. I brought it to the smoke point, added some salt, rubbed it, dumped out the salt and the oil, gave it a little touch of oil again, and it's all seasoned, ready to go. It will be non-stick. So the two greens in our salad today, we've got triple washed romaine. I've got more here than I really need. And then I've also got dinosaur kale, which was all organic. And what I want to show you how to do is take the rib out. So all you have to do is pull on each side of the kale and rub your fingers down the rib. Then place it on your cutting board and just keep pulling the rib. And it'll break off right where it's not fibrous anymore. We save this. I've got kind of my refuse bowl here. This will go into a container and be go into a composting. And it's also one of our programs is called Waste Not. We record our waste so that we can make sure that we're not wasting money by either overproducing or being wasteful. So the recipe calls, go ahead.
And kale is such a good vegetable for you. It's high in fiber, and it really helps to fight off some of those bad diseases like cardiovascular disease, helps with asthma. It really helps to prevent some types of cancer too. So that's a really good vegetable too for your salads.
So what I've done, the recipe calls for a chiffonade of the kale. Chiffonade is what we're going to do is we put the leaves one on top of another. We roll them cigar-like, and then we're just going to give them a nice thin cut. This will help in the ease to be able to eat this. It won't be such a large piece. And again, organic dinosaur kale. It's a little less rigid or hard to eat like a traditional kale. So you really, really want to look for a baby kale or dinosaur kale. Each bowl will take a half a cup. So the recipes that I've written call for 4 portions. So that's why I've got my 4 fillets of salmon, and then I will cut enough lettuce, as you can see, goes off into our holding bowl. And then the same thing with the romaine, triple washed again. And I'm just going to chiffonade this. And I only want to use the greens. I don't want to get too far down to the hearts, because they tend to be bitter. And we've already got enough bitterness in the dinosaur kale. That's one of the could be a drawback for folks. If they're an iceberg lettuce fan, we're kind of broadening their horizons here. So that's our mixture of greens. So again, that's dinosaur kale and romaine lettuce. All right, so I've got my components all done. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and make Caesar dressing. So first thing I'll show you is a little trick on how to get a clove of garlic out. So I'm just pushing on the entire head, and the cloves will just kind of pop. They'll easily be freed. So for me to make enough dressing for 4 portions, it's 2 large cloves of garlic. So again, anybody that's seen the Food Network, give those cloves a little hit with the back of a knife, and my garlic's going to go right into the bowl. So Amy, the next ingredient that goes in to make this dressing is anchovy. So anchovies are kosher, and what it is, it needs to be a fish with scales. So these are a scaled fish. I've got my anchovy. So depending upon how fishy or how much anchovy flavor you want, my recipe calls for 1 anchovy per person. These are nice small anchovies. So
yeah, and don't forget that anchovies are really good in vitamins and minerals. They also help provide some major health benefits. So although it may give that fishy flavor, they do have a lot of benefits for you too.
All right, so what I got is Caesar salad bowl. I've got my garlic in there. I've got my anchovies. And what I'm just going to do, using 2 forks, I'm going to make a garlic and anchovy paste. And using the gloves, the forks are very, very slippery. I used to do this tableside in a fancy white tablecloth restaurant, and right now the smell of the garlic is just permeating the room, right behind the smell of the toasted spices that I did. So going back to those toasted spices, we could use a spice mill to grind them really fine. What I'm going to do is just use the back of a saute pan and show folks how to do it that way. So again, here I am with my paste. I don't know if you can see in the bowl, it's turning into a paste. So we're going to make our dressing right here. All right. So next thing that goes in there is we're going to use pasteurized eggs. So this will be salmonella negative. And all we want is the yolk. So taking off the whites, we save the whites to make meringues or other egg dishes, egg white omelet. You can see I've got a nice yolk emulsion. And then the other thing that I'm going to add is my Aquafaba. So this is the liquid that was off those garbanzo beans. It'll lighten up the dressing a little bit. Next component, take a lemon, roll it on your cutting board. This is going to break up all the membranes so you can get the most juice out of it. So take a fork, stick it into the lemon and get the juice out of it. This is a real juicy lemon, so I'm only going to do half. Again, it's all depending upon your personal flavor, personal touch. But you can see I've got a nice Caesar dressing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reserve a little bit because I'm going to use some of the Caesar dressing as a dipping sauce for my fresh bites. There's my reserve dressing. And the next thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my dressing. My pan should be nice and hot here. I'm going to crush those spices real quick, and then instead of using a grinder, all I'm doing is using the bottom of the saute pan, and you can hear them crunching. I'm only going to add just a hint of oil to this pan. I want to make sure it's nice and hot, but I also don't want to set the fire alarm off in the building. And you know when your oil's hot when you get that smoke. So it's a matter of just taking my salmon, dropping those right in. What you want to drop, you want to put it in so it's skin side up, so that when you take it out of the pan and serve it on the salad, you've got the other side, it doesn't have the skin. And again, you can see this is a nice portion. With everything else going on that salad, it's great. So, I also have avocado on this salad. So I'm just going to open my avocado, which is nice and ripe. Take one of my spoons. And scoop out the avocado. It's real ripe, so you can see that the avocado is kind of breaking up on me, but that's okay because it's going into a salad. So that salmon's only going to take about 2 minutes per side. So it's great for an action station when the pandemic kind of lets up on us. You really can't see it, but I'll show it to you when I do the finished bowl. Again, I've got my dressing, got my lettuces. This is dinosaur kale and romaine. I got my 2 forks. I just want to make sure that I coat my lettuces. We're going to go ahead and get ready to assemble one of these power bowls. So I've got my bowl over here in the back. And then I'll use my forks here as tongs. And again, you can see how fun this would be to be able to do this table side. So you want about a little bit better than a cup of greens. So you can see that there. My roasted red peppers on one side. And my crispy garbanzos. My avocado. And then my salmon. So you can see what a nice bowl.
Wow, that looks great, Chef Jim. It's certainly healthy for you too.
I want to show you how to take that same bowl that we just made and do it into a fresh bite. Show folks how easy it is to do the handheld vessel. So, all right, so what I've got is spring roll paper. This is a rice paper you can get in the Asian aisle at any restaurant. I'm sorry, any supermarket. So you can see it looks like a piece of cellophane. So in order to use this, you've just got to dip it in water on both sides. Put it on your cutting board for a second. So what that's doing is rehydrating now. I'm going to go ahead and put my greens and some of my red pepper and avocado. And of course, we have to have a little bit of salmon. So I'm just going to flake said salmon in there, nice and hot, ready to go. Then I'm going to go at the paper, where I'm going to fold again, and then get the whole thing to come over as a spring roll, tucking the ends in. And then I've got my serving plate, and I saved some of that dressing. So we'll use a little bit of that dressing on the bottom. Take our knife, cut it into a bite-sized handheld. Tuck that piece under, and I've got a little bit of chopped parsley that I did earlier. We'll add that to the plate, and again, to give it a little color, I'm going to hit it with a little bit of paprika. Just to spice up the plate a little bit. And you can see we've got it done. It's a fresh bite. Handheld for those that may have forgotten how to use silverware, or we just encourage them to get better intake by eating with their hands.
Well, Chef Jim, this has been such a good time. The dish that you made looks just delicious, and I certainly wish we can all taste it through our cameras today. Thank you so much for your cooking skills and telling us about the foods that you were making today.
Well, I can tell you it's my pleasure, and I have the best job in the company because Unidine lets me do the two things I love to do most, and that's number one, cook, and number two, teach. So if I can do both, kudos.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Let's